Ladies and gentlemen, Debbie Nicol.
The greatest risk that leadership faces in today's workplace may no longer be poor leadership. I believe it is leadership dependency. I have actually worked and served this part of the world for over 3 decades, working with organisations and leaders. And one thing I can safely say is that there is so much damage in organisations when leadership has been built around one person. One particular memory I have is when I was with a manufacturing organisation. And at that particular time, I experienced what I call the frozen room. A critical launch, it was looming. Deadlines were tight, stakes were high, focus was clear. Suddenly and unexpectedly, the leader simply left. And I was in the room when the 100 leaders who had been impacted by that just sat, did nothing. They were senior, they were competent, they were confident. Yet nothing happened. Meetings stopped. Decisions froze. Teams waited. And it was at that moment that I realised we did not have a leadership gap. What we had was leadership dependency. Similarly, there was another morning when I received quite a frantic phone call. And the lady was, "What do I do? What do I do?" I said, "Okay, calm down. What's happened?" She said, "I have a room of 30 executives sitting, looking at their computers, doing absolutely nothing, just waiting." Really? It wasn't because the strategy had failed. It wasn't because the market had shifted. It was because, are you ready? The Microsoft Office license had expired and there was only one person who could renew the license. There it was again, leadership dependency. And that made me realise that leadership for today's workplace, it has rarely been designed to survive beyond that one person, the leader themselves. Singularity of leadership is an absolute structural flaw today. Now imagine if we were all working on a building site and we're building a high-rise and we see a structural flaw. Undoubtedly there would be an immediate risk assessment and the site would be closed down. Yet in business, singularity of leadership is allowed to perpetuate unchecked. Just think of how we even recruit leaders today. So a recruiter will go out and look for the one with the best experience, the one with the biggest network, the one with the most recent qualifications. And then they will take that one and place them on a pedestal and ask them to become another one, ask them to become the one who needs to know all the information, to become the one who needs to have all the access, and the one who needs to be at the centre of decisions. Is that a problem? Maybe years ago it was not, possibly because it was a completely different work environment. It was stable, it was predictable. Yet today, It's nothing like that. We're living and working in times of complexity. We have got ambiguity, we have got unpredictability. Most of us here are time poor, pressure rich. And it's in times of complexity that singularity of leadership will be exposed. Can you imagine, have you ever seen a leader who can cope with every demand that is coming their way? I haven't. And if they try, they become a pressure cooker. And then they pass the pressure through the organisation. Have you ever seen a leader who can get everything done on time? Because right now, on time means right now. Have you ever seen a leader who, when it's times of crisis, when we need multiple alternatives and options to choose from, have you ever seen one person who can come up with enough options? I haven't. And yet we need to choose the best option for the crisis. Complex times command more from leadership than singularity. It is time to transfer leadership to all. Now, what can that look like? Well, I can tell you what it sounds like. Debbie, I hate you. It's like, whoa, what is going on here? So I'm going to, for you to understand that, I'd like to invite you into a room that I'm in at the moment with a managing director. This gentleman is the most incredible gentleman and one of the best leaders I've seen. And I've been mentoring him for 18 months. So we were sitting around a table discussing what the board had just given us that particular day. And we were trying, what the board had given us was a direction and a set of priorities. It was extra information. So we were talking about how can we transfer the leadership, the ownership of this new message to the rest of the organisation. So what we did was we invited the 9 department heads, there was 9 vertical divisions, and we brought them in and we started sharing with them a picture of the future that the managing director and I had drawn. And behind the picture, of course, every picture has a story. So we started sharing the story and the picture and invited the department heads to come on in as a character of that story and to see how they would play that future story out. And I was pretty excited when I saw them getting a little bit more committed and a little bit excited. So I gave them a challenge. I asked them to return to their own department, where each of them had 4 supervisors. And so I asked them to repeat the process that we had just done with them, with their own section heads or supervisors, which they did. And 2 weeks later, the managing director and I were looking at the 9 pictures that we'd placed on the table around the central picture. We were pretty happy with what had been produced. But I've got a little bit of suspicion, so I said, I wonder how much these section heads had actually been involved. So I called them together and I asked them, what was the process like for you? And how do you feel about your picture? Which is when Wasl, out of the mouth of babes, simply said, I hate you, Deb. And I was, whoa. And then obviously I had to stay calm and I said, let me be curious about that. What's behind that? And he said, Deb, that picture? And he was pointing to the wall. He said, see that picture? It has changed my life. Wow, how? And he said, well, there's 3 things now that happen for us in the department. He said, number 1, in shipping, which was the industry that the managing director was heading up, he said, in shipping, we're constantly asked to take new clients, but quite often it's a lot of effort for their job for very small amount of return. So he said, now we are filtering any requests. We are using the picture as our decision tool so that we will not be taking clients that will not help us move towards our new desired outcome. I thought, oh, that's good. He said, number 2, every morning I come in, I look at that picture, and it reminds me what matters most for today. And he said, number 3, what we want to do with the picture, we're going to be taking it in to our monthly meeting, and we're going to be measuring just what we've done this month, how much closer has it taken us towards this picture. What really amazed me behind that was I could feel in Wasl a sense of commitment, a sense of ownership, and also a desire to be accountable. And I'm thinking, woohoo, we've made progress here, transferring leadership to all. But then I deflated my own thoughts and I went, oh no. This is a change, and a change will always be process-based. You cannot sustain change when it is activity-based. And I thought, oh my Lord, we have to have more inputs to keep this going, which is the exact moment I thought, we're in good hands, not a problem. Why? Because the input I'm referring to that becomes the instrument to transfer leadership to all is executive presence. Not executive presence in the 1970s and 80s that was look at me, look at my grooming, look at my stance, back to singularity of leadership. No, executive presence has been redefined these days. And if you recall, I said the managing director was a brilliant leader. And what I saw him do from the first day he entered the organisation 18 months ago, oh my goodness, he did not go to his office, he did not depend on his title, he opened the space to bring the department heads in. Every day they had constant communication. They started sharing brilliantly. Some of them were sharing stories, others bringing input, and this continued to open the space. We had a sense of connection building from day one. We had a sense of belonging and a sense of trust, so much so that I knew if our managing director was to get up and go, leave the organisation, we were in very good hands because the department heads were owning this organisation as if it was their own. The structural flaw of singular leadership can no longer exist when executive presence is implemented as an organisation design principle, as a foundation, and not a performance skill. Now, what's the relevance of this to us here in the UAE? Well, remember the world is watching us in the UAE. They're always very curious about what we are achieving. And I believe the UAE gives us 3 very good reasons why all of us could take this cause forward. 1, what do we have here in the UAE? We have constant churn of especially expatriate leaders, where an expatriate leader will come in on a contract for 2 years, and once his work is done, he will then leave, and another one will come in with the propensity to disrupt the organisation. So the fact that we're bringing our department heads and now the section heads, transferring leadership to all, we have engineered continuity and reduced the risk of disruption. So that's the first opportunity the UAE gives all of us. The second is that we live and work in a global village. My goodness, we all know, just look at this room, the multiculturalism that we have here. No one organisation can represent all cultures. No one leader can be everything a culture requires. So by bringing all, while transferring leadership to them, we are bringing the cultures and also co-creating a culture from all of us that will work for the organisation. The third reason I believe this is entirely possible in the UAE, why we can transfer leadership to all, it's due to the leadership of this country where they are so clear on the priority to technology and AI. No one leader can possibly know everything there is to know about technology. No one leader can build everything through AI. We are all finite. So the beauty of bringing everybody through as leader means we are opening up to more experience and more perspectives so that the tech ecosystem that we build will be broad and deep. I truly believe that we are very well positioned for this here in the UAE. So, my stance, it is time to evolve beyond singular leadership and leadership dependency. Each and every organisation has an opportunity to transfer leadership to all through executive presence, while facilitating leadership at all levels. We're not going to give them one big title, they don't want it. By facilitating leadership at all levels, we are getting ownership and responsibility flowing through the organisation. Big, bold words? Possibly. But hey, we've got big, bold people here in the UAE. I believe each and every one of you is a leader in your own right. I truly do. You may be leading in the house, you may be leading in community, society, or even your workplace. So I have a gift for you, and it's a question that I'd like you to pop away in your pocket. And when you are facing your next leadership moment, regardless of the context, pull it out and ask, as I am facing and working through this situation, whatever your context is, am I working with it in isolation by myself, or am I building with this situation, am I building the conditions and capacities that will allow others to lead it beyond yourself? Because leaders of the future will not be measured by the power they had, but rather by the leadership they have facilitated through others. Thank you.